take an analogy of, say, a hospital and a medical college. Now, if you don't have medical colleges, how will you have good hospitals?
Yeah, that's true.
Right? So, if you don't have people who are experts in art history, experts in conservation, experts in the field of visitor experience, curation,
Yeah.
collection
Restoration,
management.
yeah.
You see, that is an area I had wanted to really concentrate on, and and was partially successful. Was to create an institution called the Indian Institute of Heritage.
Wow.
Yeah, so the idea was that the School of Archival Studies or Archaeological Studies or the National Museum Institute or the School on Manuscriptology, they all should be brought together.
If a youngster wants to get into this space as a career, what options are available? But you've pretty much voiced that.
Someone actually ventures into the field of museology, you find that the potential is immense.
And the
You'll
competition doesn't
immediate-
exist.
It really doesn't exist. And there's just so much happening now.
Welcome to Unbox with Tunvey, a show, a podcast where we have conversations with people who've lived unconventional lives, and we try and unravel and understand human behavior through their experiences and through their lives. On today's show, I have with me a student of history, as he calls it, or he calls himself. He's been in the civil services. He's held posts like the Director General of the National Archives, Director of Indian Cultural Center in Berlin, and one of his last posts was CEO of Development of Museums and Cultural Spaces. He's authored a book. He's in the process of authoring two more on Kashmir. The one that he'd written earlier was on the Northwestern Frontier Province, and we'll talk more about it. But currently, he's put together this amazing exhibition at the National Gallery of Modern Art. It's brought together pieces from all over the country that are, that talk about our culture, that talk about our history. It's called Roots and Roots. Please help me welcome the curator himself, Mr. Raghavendra Singh. Hello, sir. Thank you so much for being with us on this show. I was amazed. I was walking through the exhibit, but please first tell me more about, what you've done, what you've put together. I saw some pieces that are going back thousands of years.
I actually, I'll catch on one word which you mentioned, that you do interviews with people who've led unconventional lives. Now, I have had the most boring life.
No, I don't think so.
Really, it has been, you see, because as a civil servant, the life which you lead is pretty much predictable. Let's put it that way. But then, the civil service does give you an opportunity of whatever you want to pursue and provides you ample opportunities. I mean, if you say take to doing things in the sector of health, it'll allow you to do that. Education will allow you to do that. So I got involved with culture and tourism. I also have been a student of history, so I came back to it after a lapse of 20 years.
You went back and did your master's in history?
No, I mean, just to write one book on Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And the book is titled India's Lost Frontier, the story of Northwest Frontier province of Pakistan. Currently, I'm doing two. One is on Gilgit Agency and the other one is on Kashmir 1947-48. The documents which I actually found were the documents from the British High Commission in various cities of Pakistan, as also India, and from New York and British Commonwealth Office in London. Now coming back to...
No, but since we're talking about the book, we might as well speak a little bit more about it. The research when you're writing a book of 1947-48, Kashmir, or even, Gilgit, the point is that the research itself must be quite a task.
Yes, of course. I mean, in the sense that I have been actually reading up on 47, 48 Kashmir documents for almost 3, 4 years now, and you actually suddenly realize that reading just won't suffice.
You
You have
need
to
more.
actually sift material out, put it in a. So some people are very adept at it. You would find that they write great books and they don't spend too much of time writing it. Some people are lazy, like me. They go all over the place, and then they suddenly realize that since they enjoyed reading research material, they
Just end up,
enjoyed it,
they just
but they
continue
haven't
reading.
actually put them down, in a way that you can sort of put it in a book form. So this
I,
is usually what happens with me.
I completely, I can feel that because I'm writing my first book. It's also called Unbox. And I'm halfway through. But the thing is, the more I study about the human mind, the more I think I need to study more. It's like the more I'm researching, I feel I need more information, and I'm constantly just getting sucked into the vortex of research and study, and not enough in writing. But I think both you and I should put a deadline. I have
Yeah,
been
you see,
advised by
so,
some very
so
good
the
people.
deadline is put by the publisher. It is actually put by the publisher, and then they start getting a little restive about it. So what happened with me was that I came across these documents of the British High Commission, and reading them, one felt that at that particular point of time, 47, 48, we'd just come out of
The
we'd
colonial rule,
become,
yeah.
yeah, and then we had been partitioned, but the Brits knew anything and everything which was going on internally within our country, and they would write to each other and they would share it, and they would get the information from the powers that be within India, and then with that information they would actually steer our history in a particular way. So it was very clear what was happening in Kashmir around that time was the handiwork of the British, and that is what this book will bring out. As far as Gilgit is concerned, which is one third of Kashmir of that time, how we lost that, without raising a finger, we just lost it. We didn't do anything, we just lost it. And so that's a separate story. So Kashmir being core of our nationhood,
was
the
still
kind of
being was still being puppeteered by the British, you're saying, at that
absolutely.
point.
And that needs to be, and you see, one good thing about the Brits is that they tend to document everything.
So you
It's
can
been
catch him
there,
later.
so it's their documents, and I'm not even trying to qualify it. I'm just putting it there for people to infer.
Quite insightful, and I look forward to reading that book. But I think reading colonial history of any kind is not easy to digest for Indians. But I think it's important
Yes,
to
of
know what
course.
happened so
Sure.
we
Yeah,
don't repeat similar mistakes. So
you're
that's good.
absolutely correct.
So coming back to the exhibit, I was most excited right now. I haven't seen all of it, seen bits and parts of it, and we'll see more, later on in the day or just after our chat. What was the biggest challenge putting something like this in place? And has an exhibit of this nature ever been done?
So this idea was mooted actually very early this year in January, that we need to do something which puts out things about India's civilization, civilizational aspects, and at the same time should not be really in the face, should be appealing, and should be informative.
Yeah, I think the quantum of cultural history that has been put together under one roof is quite amazing.
So what we then started to do was that we started to identify the objects under certain chosen themes. So about 12 themes were there.
Yeah, like right now we're sitting in the Shringar
We
room.
are sitting in the Shringar room. So Shringar is one of the Navrasas, one of the 9 emotions. And it's trying to tell, this room tells the story of the unique story of India and what love and beauty means as an Indian. And, if there is a person who's not an Indian, he comes into this room, he gets to sever something which is unique as an Indian saga. As far as Indians are concerned, we also get to appreciate it. Um, so, similar such themes. And then we started researching in a way that, when you are in an exhibition, this is quite a huge exhibition, by the way, spread over about 40 halls. And so I would call it museum of an exhibition.
I was just going to say that. I said it would be probably fair to call it a mini museum and not really an exhibit, right?
So if you do come to visit this exhibition, I mean, personally, I think a day, you need a day for it to go through it, because things are very well explained over here. So even if someone who's really not in au fait with the civilizational aspects, or he's not a student of history, in Indian history, he would not really find it difficult to appreciate things which are here. The challenges that you asked me, the challenge was that, number one, you identify the objects. So obviously, you would identify objects which are uh, great antiquity, going back 4,000 years, 4,500 years, 3,000 years.
Can you imagine?
A lot of stuff which you see here, all 2,500 years old, like these
I think there's
terracotta
nothing
pieces.
that's less than 2,000 years old, more or less.
Yeah, kind of. In general, about 70 odd percent is around that vintage. Uh, and of course, the manuscripts, since most of them are on paper, so they would only be about 400, 500 years old. Same goes for the paintings. But as far as our sculpture and other antiquities go, they are
2,000 years and above.
so about 14, 15 lending institutions were involved.
Wow.
So
The sheer coordination and the
coordination
logistics
and
of this.
getting them to collaborate was quite a
I think
quite a task.
your many years as a civil servant and an administrator, all of those skills had to come to the
Then-
fore to make it happen.
Then the logistics of bringing them all here, that was another challenge, because you see, if it is antiquity, moving it here,
Yeah.
right?
There's a whole security
Yes,
issue.
yeah,
There's
the
a
security issue. I'm sure you must have seen today when you came in, the kind of security which is around.
absolutely.
So, but finally, I mean, thanks to God, and literally, I mean, I must thank the Secretary Culture, because he made it possible. He actually made it possible. In fact, I thought that it was quite a hopeless task I was endeavoring to do, but he really made that possible.
That's
and
so wonderful.
he would, at every step, personally call people and cajole them into sending things across, because in general you would find that as far as rare artifacts are concerned, the general approach or the attitude is that the lending institutions are pretty much loath at parting with them, because
nobody wants
they
to-
don't
they-
know,
what is gonna
suppose
happen.
if something happens, that question mark 1%. So in my living memory, I don't think so. An exhibition of rare antiquity of such a scale, on such a scale of collaboration, has been possible in the last
Yeah, I think in
45,
living
50 years. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm saying just in living memory in the last couple of
yeah.
decades, an exhibit of this scale and stature has not
Yeah,
has
I
not
mean,
been made possible, and you've
because
curated this.
I was feeling that perhaps I would only end up getting, say, 25% of what I was wanting to get here. Believe you me, it's more than 100%. When you say
That is
more than
absolutely
100%,
wonderful.
then I would actually clarify that, suppose if there were two pieces depicting the same thing, and being a little greedy, I thought, suppose if I don't get it from this guy, let me ask from the other chap.
And both gave
And
it.
both gave it. So that has also happened
I think, when you
in one
aspire
or two
for when
cases.
you aspire for the moon, you'll at least get the stars. So I think that's probably what
So
signifies this exhibit.
so when it all came together, and when it was coming together, it was complete chaos for about 10 days, um, and and obviously one was very anxious as to how the whole thing would look, appear. But when things fell into place,
No, but I think it's just so beautifully put together. Yes, there are pieces, but there are explanations of every piece, so you can easily read and understand. Then there are movies and films that are talking about the history of a particular area. So it's really a wonderful experience as a whole. And the genesis of this was to get the spouses of the G20 participants to come and see this. What was that like? What was the feedback that you got from
to
the
start with,
G20 folk?
to start with, I was told that this is going to be an important exhibition for G20, so it will get inaugurated around the time when the G20 summit is taking place. So I really didn't know who was coming. Uh, so subsequently, a couple of months before the summit took place, I was told that the first ladies are going to come. And I was just hoping against hope that their spouses also came. So, but that was not to be. But with the first ladies, the time given was just about half an hour, and just to see half of the exhibition, which is the ground floor of Jaipur House. But then they stayed for over an hour till the MEA people
Said,
sort
now you
of
have to leave.
whisk them away, so to speak.
So they really did
Just
enjoy it. If
they should have enjoyed. I'm
yeah,
sure
otherwise
they
they wouldn't
did.
have stayed
Yeah,
over the time
yeah,
that was
yeah.
scheduled for them
And they
for the
were,
event.
I mean, I took them around, so they were conversing all the while, and a lot of them were truly interested, and they were discussing some of the objects, and I was at times a little hard pressed on facts, etc., for me to tell them and convince
Just
them.
off the
So
top of your
yes,
head, yeah.
it was slightly challenging too, taking them around.
Wow. So just tell me, what are your top three favorites from the entire collection? Hard one, huh? For the person
Yeah.
who's put it
So
all together, they're all your babies.
one, one piece which is about 15, more than 1500 years old, I think 1700 years old, is a piece of Vasant Sena. Vasant Sena is a character in many dramas, including Kalidas, and and she was a courtesan, and the piece is a sculpture where she is shown, being lifted, and she's inebriated, and so what appealed to me was that this is the depiction of time which goes back more than 2000, 2500 years. And at that time, if the status of women was that they quite openly,
Yeah.
could be seen inebriated, then what I thought was that this kind of prudery, you see,
It's very recent.
which was brought in by the British, and this whole the Victorian norms, etc., into our Indian minds, was not our mindset. And our system of governance was entirely different. I mean, you had on one side Bharat, his concept of sacrifice, tyag, that he ruled for those 14 years in the name of Ram. Or you have Ardhanarishwar, or you have, pluralism. Anything singular about India is that nothing is singular.
Nothing is singular.
So it's like that. The second piece is again a coin of the same vintage as Alexander, where Alexander and Porus actually are shown
Wow.
fighting each other, and Porus is on the elephant and Alexander is on his horse, and not very far from India, in the region of Bactria, this coin was minted by Alexander before he went back and passed away.
Wow.
So this is 4th century BC.
And
So
that's it's there for
yeah,
all of us to
yeah.
see. Mm.
Then of course we have the royal chariot, which is again 4,500 years old,
I can't
found
even, I
recently.
can't even imagine 4,500 years old. It's like right now I'm saying 100 years, 200 years.
Yeah, it's
It's
over
like
2000 BC.
yeah, 4,500
Uh, to-
years. It's
and it's a royal
amazing.
chariot. It's a chariot where you would mount the chariot to fight, and the shield and the sword, they're all there. Similarly, there are some very intricate pieces of sculpture from Amravati, from Nagarjuna Konda, from Gandhara, from Mathura. In fact, though I should be saying it because I've curated it, so it's like patting my own back. but most of the antiquity which is brought here is are hero pieces from the museum. So if it is Mathura, the hero pieces of Mathura. Chandigarh, the hero Gandhara pieces from Chandigarh. Similarly, the hero Gandhara, Amravati pieces from Chennai, or the bronze pieces from Chennai. Similarly, from Nagarjuna Konda or Sanchi or Indian Museum in Kolkata, and various other institutions like the Asiatic Society, the oldest 1780s. So from
Wow.
there,
So it's like if you're in Delhi and you don't see this, you're really doing yourself a disservice. I think the entrance is
that's an
20.
understatement.
Yeah, that's an understatement. Yeah. Because the entry fee is nothing.
Just
It's
20
20
rupees.
rupees.
Yes.
And you get a world of cultural immersion, lessons in history, yes, but I
Yeah.
think just a peep into a completely different world if
Yes, and three-fourths of the exhibition is on our roots, and roots, ROUTES, our international connect. Uh, but the remaining 25% is on India's shared traditions with the G20 countries. So
um,
whatever connect we've had with the G20 countries,
culturally.
yeah, culturally, that's also put out, and put out for the first time. So that itself is also quite interesting. Though of course the genre is entirely different, but yes, we had to have the G20 Connect, and we had to engage in some of their priorities, and it's curated accordingly, but very interestingly.
Wow. I think I'm going to get my daughter here, and I
Yeah,
think
and
all the school students should
youngsters,
then
if they come,
youngsters
the
should
children,
definitely
yeah,
visit. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But in all your years of putting, curating exhibitions and museums, and you've done various kinds over the years, from films to now, antiquities. What has been, your most favorite lesson that you've learned dealing with people putting all these together?
I unwittingly, actually, quite unwittingly, got into the sector of conservation.
Okay.
And I'm saying this because perhaps you missed out and you didn't talk about it because obviously it's not known. But it's something which is very close to my heart. So I would go and see a lot of these government structures. Say, for example, this place which where you're sitting, Jaipur House, was actually non-functional
Yeah, it was quite
4 5 years,
dilapidated. Yes.
4 5 years ago. Similarly, 11 British barracks in Red Fort here. Uh, in Kolkata, there were places like the old currency building next to Writers Building, Metcalfe Hall, Victoria Memorial. And there are numerous examples like that in Banaras and all these places. So these were dilapidated buildings. The idea was to resurrect them, to conserve them, to restore them, and then put them into adaptive reuse. And being in the government, you know, the advantage was that I could do it
Yeah,
as
true.
a secretary culture or as CEO of cultural and museum spaces. Uh, the disadvantage was that I didn't have that kind of flexibility
You
to
had to
do it
work
the
within
way
a
I
certain
would want
structure.
to. So obviously, then you had to really act like a person who would be there on the site almost every day to see that things were going as per your
So while you
wishes.
were CEO, you were also the contractor on job.
Exactly. So I ended up actually doing a lot of buildings and then putting them to good use. And they are all like now functional buildings, and very well attended buildings. So to that extent, I have derived a lot of satisfaction doing that bit. The second bit is, what lessons have I drawn?
Yeah.
The lesson which I have drawn is, you see, in the last 5, 7 years, 10 years almost, I have seen that there has been a renewed interest in the field of museology. And our Prime Minister, actually, he's the one who has given a great fillip to this movement.
Wow.
Single-handedly, he's given a great fillip to this movement of museology. He would say that create museums, go out, see it, and do it. And it was essentially his idea that the North and South block, just not
Yeah,
very
right
far
here,
from
yeah.
here, should actually be converted into National Museum. Can you imagine if
Wow.
a building of that stature
And size.
and size gets converted? But what I wanted to tell you was that while all this is happening, take an analogy of, say, a hospital and a medical college. Now, if you don't have medical colleges, how will you have good hospitals,
Yeah, that's true.
right? So, if you don't have people who are experts in art history, experts in conservation, experts in the field of visitor experience, curation,
Yeah.
collection management,
Restoration, yeah.
you see, you will not have a good ecology of museum, right? So that's the place where we lack the reservoir
Yeah, we
to
don't have
draw
enough
from,
people.
to
Yeah,
draw
we don't
from.
have people.
So we don't have that kind of people, and that really is not something which will happen in overnight. That takes time. So that is an area I had wanted to really concentrate on, and I endeavored and was partially successful. Was to create an institution called the Indian Institute of Heritage.
Wow.
Yeah, so the idea was that the School of Archival Studies or Archaeological Studies or the National Museum Institute or the School on Manuscriptology, they all should be brought together. And instead of a diploma course, you should have a degree course and a doctoral course, and that is what is actually happening. It's started to happen. IIH has actually been created, and so you know
I
what.
was just going to ask you that, that if a youngster wants to get into this space as a career, what options are available? But you've pretty much voiced that.
Can I tell you that this is an area where there is complete desertification? So if someone actually ventures into the field of museology, you find that the potential is immense.
And the
You'll
competition doesn't
immediate-
exist.
It really doesn't exist. And there's just so much happening now.
Yeah.
It actually is happening. Good, bad, ugly could be there. I mean, there could be museums coming up you may not like, right?
But at least the work has begun.
Yeah, the work has begun and it's kind of improved in geometric progression. I can see it in 5, 7 years, the way it's got a fillip. So now, I mean, in 10 years' time, 15 years' time, this sector
Is going to explode.
Yes, is going to explode. And it'll be good for our heritage because, we would be getting down to conserving it. And it same goes for our
Documenting,
manuscripts.
conserving, and
Yeah.
and I think just creating an interest into our cultural history.
Yes. I mean, I've seen here in this exhibition, I've bumped into a couple of people who have been coming here and then they would, look back and tell me, this time I've come with my wife, this time I've come with my so and so.
So nice. I saw
obviously
a couple of
interested.
manuscripts.
And there are a lot of youngsters, sorry,
Yeah.
but there are a lot of youngsters coming in, which is most heartening.
That is wonderful. That is actually wonderful.
Yeah.
I was seeing some manuscripts on my way in on the Ramayana, a few passages from the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Uh, just the papyrus and the whole feel. I'm sure that was difficult to get as well.
No, actually, in various museums and in various other institutions like the Asiatic Society, etc., we have a huge collection of manuscripts.
Wow.
We have a huge collection of manuscripts, and the modern way of studying them and deriving the messages out of them, interpreting them, and sort of putting them to contemporary usage, so to speak, deriving lessons. That is just about beginning. We have so much and so little really read and interpreted. जो पहले हो गया वो हो गया.
But nothing much is happening
Beach
right
में,
now.
in the last maybe 100 years, nothing much has happened. Now that has started a beginning to happen. So a lot of places which are custodians of our manuscripts, now the awareness is coming that we should reach out to those places. We should start immediate conservation work, restoration work, and start reading them. Then, of course, the script, suppose if it is a Sanskrit manuscript,
Correct.
then you have the
Sanskrit scholars who come in and
then you have the
interpret it.
Sarda script in Sanskrit. You have the Brahmi script. Then you have the Kharoshti script. Then you have the Grantham script. All Sanskrit, right?
But different scripts
Different scripts.
from different
So
times.
suddenly you realize that there are not very many experts. So then
True.
you have to create that kind of expertise.
What you were talking about earlier, that you really need to create an infrastructure and a system where more people are involved
Yes.
and more people come in. In fact, I was seeing one of the films on Nalanda, and you brought up manuscripts. Imagine having, I was watching the film, imagine having a library with 10,000 books. Back then, people from all over the world came to study at the University of Nalanda, and they had so many books that it took 3 months to burn down.
Yeah.
I mean, these facts are just mind blowing. And when you come here, you understand stuff like this. Just the deep and rich heritage that our country had, and it all got polished by our colonial experience.
That plus, a lot of it got destroyed.
It just made me feel really bad. Imagine having, if it took 3 months for a library to burn down, can you imagine how much knowledge we
Must
lost?
have been lost, yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
crazy.
I mean, Nalanda, I was speaking to some of my colleagues from the Archaeological Survey of India, and they were saying that if we go back to Nalanda and re-excavate,
We might find
no,
something.
not might, it's a certainty
We will
that
find
you
something.
will find a lot. So, I mean, I personally feel that some of our places which have been half excavated and left.
And now
Also-
technology has changed. We can
Yeah,
excavate
yes.
differently now.
And we should excavate, and that is what is going to give us lot many more artifacts and a lot of heft to our culture. I mean, we keep on only talking about 5,000 years of our culture. Why 5,000 years of our culture? Why not 20,000 years of our culture?
That's
That kind of a thing.
I think we were one of the most advanced, culturally advanced societies that existed. But what is known in the common parlance is just a couple of 100 years of history, and we've forgotten what happened before.
I'm from Patna, right? And till my school days, there wasn't a building as high as Nalanda. Till whatever level it's been excavated.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
So if
So
you
can you
went
imagine? I
forward,
mean, if
what
you
would
further excavate, the height will go up. And if you go in to Nalanda and see the height of that, the remains of the building, and then you sort of digitally visualize what that building must have been.
just
I mean,
mind-boggling.
it's really I mean, I have it in that film. So whole thing has been visualized how it was. Similarly, you go to Bharut. Similarly, you go to Amravati or to Nagarjuna Konda. I mean, the artistry of the craft of
Is
the
immense.
artisans who's chiseled.
Yeah. It's unimaginable.
No
It's
one
just
can do it
beautiful.
now.
True. It's just beautiful.
Yes.
So before we wrap up our conversation, what's the one thing you feel you've done that has got you to this point? Because you're a name to reckon with when it comes to curating art and cultural exhibitions together. And the beginning of your career was the IAS. What is something that has allowed you to constantly evolve and, you know, be here today?
It's a very cliched answer, actually.
Doesn't matter. It's
It's a very
real. It doesn't
cliched
matter if it's
answer.
cliche.
And that is that you should try and enjoy whatever you're doing. I mean, there are many things which people would consider, no, 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 but how come you're doing this? But if I enjoyed sort of researching for about 4 5 years, I researched, and that's how I actually got into writing a book on Pakistan. I actually helped someone write a book on some similar subject. So on one side there's academics, which interests me, modern Indian history to be precise. And then in the last 20 years or so, I got involved in heritage, having worked in the sector of culture and tourism within our country and overseas. So that also. So looking back, I mean, even during my service years, I have been in a job which I've usually enjoyed, and job has never been a chore for me. Otherwise, I wouldn't want to go into that sector. And I would tell my superiors plainly that if you want to keep me in some place where I don't want to be, then you don't expect anything coming out of it. So that's, but mostly it worked out. So in my 37, 38 years of career, around 30 years, I did the kind of a job which I thoroughly enjoyed. You can't ask for more. And even thereafter, I've been enjoying it. I mean, this 8 9 months, they just you know
Went by in a
went by,
flash.
yeah, in a flash. And I would just go back home to sleep, eat and sleep. In the
Back here
last
again.
three or 4 months, I did nothing else. I mean, I only knew the way to this place and back. Um,
So it's really the
and
passion for what you
and
do
it
that
was
keeps you going.
lovely. Now I feel there's a void
What should I do
after.
now?
Yeah, what should I do now?
Well, you have to work on 2 books. So
Yes,
so
yes.
that's
In
what it's
fact,
going to
I've
be.
already started.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
I'm sort
Absolutely
of
wonderful.
yeah, I'm doing
Absolutely
that.
wonderful. Thank you so much for speaking with us today. And for everyone out there, if you haven't seen this exhibition called Roots and Roots that was initially created for the G20, but it's now open for the public, I think you'll be missing out on so much. So I urge everyone to watch it. Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank
Singh, for
you,
being with us
thank
here
you.
today. That's it on Unbox. We'll catch you again on another episode soon.